If I had known how large and bright the screen would be, I would have gone dark mode. So sorry about that. As Michael has already said, I'm Kylie. I'm here from Cloudflare, and I'm here really to talk about agents and what agent workflows will look like. Building beyond task execution is what I'm calling it. So briefest intro, engineering manager, workers, come talk to me if you want to understand what that means. I'm at Cloudflare, and we have a lot of things going on in this space. So to just transition directly into what are we talking about when we talk about an MCP host, client, server? Backing up, actually, Cloudflare has the Agents SDK. So you might have seen it. Agents.cloudflare.com is a great starting point if you want to learn a little bit more about what's available in this framework. It's just in the JavaScript registry. So npm I agents, and you can get started with this framework immediately. An agent is the MCP host. So the MCP host here is going to hold that context. It's doing the thinking. It's actually aware of the tools, or it substantiates the client, which will then connect to resources. So the host is the agent where all this is happening. And then there's MCP servers. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I think a lot of folks in the room already know what this means. So MCP client to server connection, I think this is where things get a little bit more complex. There's a lot of conversations happening right now about agents, agent to agent, agent orchestration. Let's break down what that actually means. An agent is just an LLM that has access to tools. So it has its own context, it can do its own thinking, and it potentially has access to tools if they've been provisioned. So when I talk about task execution, I mean a lot of the examples we've seen, I think, in the space so far are looking at MCP clients that map pretty much one-to-one with a server, or just like a set of tools that it has access to and it can do that thing. It's great. I think we've all seen a weather agent. I think we've all seen a time zone agent. Really good use case. I think we can go further. When I talk about agentic workflows, I'm talking about creating these environments for the agent to do a specialized set of tasks. I think the actual protocol for agent orchestration is kind of in current discussion. We might have all heard of Google A to A. I think there are a few other conversations happening in the Anthropic working groups right now about this exact topic. But the way that we provision access to tools and the way that we provision the context to the given agent to then engage with the tool is all kind of being discussed right now. So when I talk about agents, I'm talking about this pattern. Creating different agents that can do a set of things and ideally don't need to go beyond their scope. They're just a set of, I don't mean to use the word workers, given that Cloudflare offers a workers platform, but they're kind of workers. They're just individual agents doing a thing. So MCP servers. We've heard a little bit more about what this means for the industry, the kinds of thing that it's unlocking. About 2 weeks ago, Cloudflare launched 13 new remote MCP servers. Really want to emphasize remote. These are live. You can deploy them to Cloudflare. You can use what has been launched, or you can create your own servers to also deploy to Cloudflare. So you can see all of these applications in GitHub directly. Just go to Cloudflare, MCP server Cloudflare, and click right into the apps. I can even show you what this looks like. This is the repo itself. You're going to go into apps and learn a little bit more about this. The 4 servers that I really want to double click on and talk a little bit more about what this might mean for agentic patterns were all launched by Cloudflare as part of this 13 launch 2 weeks ago. One is, let's try to apply to use cases with an agent. This is just a docs autorag, so access to the developer docs. I think this is one tool that has been discussed pretty prominently, being able to get into tools and understand what they might have access to. Not every MCP server needs this. Maybe just a server that's going to help advise the direction that your other agents are going to work. That might be just one agent that has access to docs, or maybe you want your code gen or editor agent to have access to docs. Point being that each of these servers has a very specialized set of things that it can do, and you can provision access directly into that to your agent via an MCP client. So a few others that were launched. I really want to get into the demo, trying not to eat too much of my time here. We have a sandbox container. You can spin up very quick, secure sandbox environments. I think there's a lot of really interesting use cases for this, maybe proving a pattern or testing a build. Workers bindings. You can manage your workers' resources. If you're already using Cloudflare, you realize how impactful of a tool this is. You can, from your LLM, invoke new resources, create a new D1 store that maybe services your entire e-commerce application. You can set up your agents to do all of these things, and these are each servers that individually provision access to a set of tools. Last one here, workers observability. Get insights on an existing worker. You've created one, now what? Let's look at what's actually going on, what the CPU usage, that kind of thing. So I think this is worth just double clicking on. We've all talked about making a website. I think building a personal AI and doing this task execution or even multiple tasks executed using an MCP server or a set of MCP servers is going to be the way forward. I think people have talked about building their own brain. in GPT, have Kylie GPT, for example. All of this is possible, but I want us to go a little bit further. So this is why I'm putting the emphasis on the agentic workflow pattern here. Being able to actually create these agents that have very distinct goals or things that they're going to achieve. So let's take a closer look at some of these MCP servers that Cloudflare launched. Again, you can go directly in GitHub and see them. If you go into GitHub, you're going to see, this is the agents framework as well, which I do want to take a moment to reflect on. If you haven't heard of the agents framework or toyed with it just yet, definitely recommend. Go check out the source. This thing is actively being iterated on. I think there's a lot of really interesting conversations on the horizon here about the way we access tools, the way that the agent is aware of tools, and maybe even provisioning contextual access in association with auth. So if you want to talk about that after, feel free to find me. But let's look at an example here. So in the MCP server Cloudflare, you can see all of the direct server URLs that you can engage with here. I'm going to just grab the browser rendering server. Not a lot of folks realize that you can render a browser directly on a worker and do things with it. So I'm here in the AI playground that Cloudflare has. You can engage with any of these servers. I think I've already logged into this one, so it didn't actually trigger the UI to log in. But if you're logging in for the first time, you might need to connect your Cloudflare account or create a new one. So let me just see if I can natural language prompt my way to get a screenshot of workers.cloudflare.com. Really hope this one works. I noticed if I didn't actually inject a very overwhelming prompt here, it sometimes had a hard time knowing exactly what it needed to do. But here we go. Look, immediately accessible. I was able to grab that screenshot from workers.cloudflare.com just with this remote server that's already hosted, already available, allowed me to auth directly into my Cloudflare account. I can grab any website. Is there anything else you want me to screenshot just to prove this works? I can always put my own personal site in. But point being, you have a number of tools that are going to be available, and I think as we scale out, making sure that your agent has access to the tools that you expect it to have access to, and that it's able to actually communicate with other agents, maybe in that loop or network of agents that you've deployed to do a set of tasks. It's going to get really interesting. MCP routing is another conversation that I would really like to talk about if anyone's interested in discussing that one further. But cool, I think I might have actually speed run through my demo more quickly than planned. Let me go back to some of the tools that I think would be helpful to take away. If anyone wants to start building your own MCP server, creating that connection, deploying a remote server, there are a lot of really good resources. There's a guide that I honestly just didn't want to put an overloaded URL here in this slide. But if you search on the Cloudflare docs, there's a really clear guide for deploying your first remote MCP server. Personally, really nice to connect if you have any kind of inner digital brain type thing, maybe Notion. Plug for Notion, because that is my digital brain. You can build this server, call it directly from the Cloudflare playground, and you can also start developing agents and give them the access that they need to these servers.
Give it up for Kylie, please.